Can't keep up with all of them. All right, I think I'm live. Somebody let me know if they can see and hear me. I don't see. I haven't done this in a very long time. So, okay, good. I see somebody can see me. I tried to keep up with all the friend requests, so I apologize to people if I'm not going to get to you. But I'll do this tomorrow. I'll do this the rest of the week as well. So I'm going to wait to see some people coming on. And one thing that you're going to need besides paper and a pencil is a cup. We'll need that later. So if you want to run and get it now or send somebody from your group to go get one, you just need one just for tracing or something circular, a roll of tape. But a cup is usually the easiest. Oh my gosh, putting it on the TV. Oh my God. Okay, I'm still gonna wait. We're a little early anyway. I feel like I should play some music or something. It's pretty boring right now.
It's 10 o'clock.
My computer said it's 10 o'clock. If any of my students are watching, you know I have that every day in my class. I'm confirming friend requests right now if you're trying to get on. Oh my Oh. Okay. I guess I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's been about 5 minutes since I logged on. It's 10:02. So I'm just going to start talking, and if people join late, then they can just catch up. So I've made a lot of new friends in the past few hours. So just a little bit about me. I'm an art teacher at Lisbon Elementary in Howard County, Maryland. So shout out to all my Lisbon Lions out there. And before that, I taught at Ilchester and Thunderhill. So shout out to my former students if you are joining us. I also have a painting business called Giro Creative. It's on a different page if you want to check that on Facebook and Instagram. And prior to becoming a teacher, I worked at the Maryland Zoo. Well, it was called the Baltimore Zoo when I worked there. So I love zoos and I love animals. And I love, one second. I love learning about their environments. And when I worked at the zoo, I spent a lot of time down in all the exhibits, learning about the animals and spending time just watching them and watching how they acted. And of course, what they eat and how they got fed and what they eat in their natural environment, what they eat in the zoo environment. And all of my students and former students know how much I love food art. Every grade does some sort of food art with me every year because I'm obsessed with food art. So what we're going to do this week is draw some very simple animals. We'll do a draw along, which my students know that I'll do a step and then you follow along. If you don't feel you need to follow along exactly with me, you can do your own thing, add things to it, change it up a bit. For younger students or just starting, you can follow exactly what I do. And then we will create some little animals. And today we will do 3 animals. I'll give you a little bit of information about them as well. And then by the end of the week, we will have created our own zoo map. Not exactly a map with, like a zoo map would be, but we're going to draw our own animals and their own little environments and have them on a paper or 2. You can have more than 1 paper if you want to make your drawings big. Then you'll have your own little zoo it's your own zoo of your creation. So you will get to name it and create it. And then of course include all the little animals that we're going to learn how to draw. And of course their environments that we're going to talk about. And of course what they need to eat, because you need to make sure they have the food that they need to eat as well. And the reason I decided to do this, not only because I worked at the zoo, but also the Cincinnati Zoo is having a live stream every day this week at 3 o'clock featuring a different animal. I believe today is Fiona the hippo. So I wanted to tune into that. And then I just sort of thought, we could create a little art project to go along with the fun stuff that's happening at the zoo. So what you're going to need first is your paper, pencil, an eraser if you have one. I will likely be using a pen, a drawing pen, because it's hard to see pencil on my paper. So, but just make sure you're using a pencil so you can make some changes if you need to. Okay, so I'm going to sort of go back and forth between my paper here and my face. Paper is much more fun to look at. So we're going to start with the giraffe. And the giraffe is, let me go back up here. I'm talking for a minute. The giraffe is an African mammal, and if you've been to the Maryland Zoo, they are featured in the African section of the zoo. They are also the tallest living animal, and they can grow up to 18 feet tall, which I thought was pretty cool. They live in savannas, so shout out to my student Savannah if she is on, but which is a wide open space in Africa. And of course, in a zoo, they do their best to create an open space for them so they can run and move around. And for food, they eat leaves and fruits and flowers of leafy plants. So those are things that we want to add to our environment later when we get to that part, which are fun because they can be bright and colorful. And I love lots of color. And they live in herds. So if we're drawing our animals in the zoo later, you might want to draw more than one because they like to with other giraffes. Okay, so here we go. First thing you're going to need to do is draw an oval. And this, if you haven't guessed, this is the giraffe's head. Now, one thing we know about the giraffe is it has a very long neck. So it's up to you of how long you want to draw the neck, but you're going to draw 2 lines down from the head to create your neck. And like I said, these are very simple animals. So we're just keeping all of our shapes very simple. So to create the body, it's another oval, but this time it's a horizontal oval. Okay. Now we want to add our eyes. And these are sort of cartoony drawings that I'm doing. So if you want to do a different kind of eye, if you want to have a more realistic eye, you can. I'm just going to keep it kind of cartoony and cute. So we're going to do 2 circles for the eyes. We'll worry about the insides in a minute. And then 2 little ovals for the ears. And 2 smallish ovals or rounded rectangles for the feet. Now giraffes tend to have longer legs than that, so if you want to make your legs a little longer, you can. But again, like I said, I'm just drawing a cute cartoony giraffe. And then we want to add a little part to separate its mouth and nose area. Just a little rainbow, as I call them. So we have our basics of our giraffe right now. Now we're going to start adding little details. Can't forget the tail. Tail is a little small oval, and we're going to put a circle at the end. And then we're going to add the pupils of our eye. And then the nose and mouth. Now the little horns, they have a special name, and of course I did not write them down. If you know what they are called. And the insides of the ears. Now we all know what giraffes are known for mostly. They're spots. So we're going to start adding some spots, and the spots aren't necessarily dots. Some are a little bit dotted, but they're sort of shapes that fit in together like a puzzle. You want to start adding your spots all the way down, and of course across their back. And you want to add maybe a little black on the bottom of their feet for their hooves. And keep adding those spots. But this is just our practice, right? Because we're practicing all of our animals because we're going to redraw them in our zoo. I'll keep this, hold it up like this. So we don't have to worry about making it perfect right now. My students know that we generally always practice our projects first, what's called our idea development. So we're developing our ideas right now. And maybe you drew something in this giraffe that you didn't like. Maybe next time you want to make his legs longer or his neck longer or shorter. Or maybe you didn't like the way his eyes turned out. That's okay. That's why we're practicing. So we practice our animals here so that when we draw them on our final, which is our zoo map, you'll know what you want to change and move around. Okay, so are we good to go with our giraffe? Okay. Our next animal is an iguana. Okay, an iguana is a reptile. And when I worked at the zoo, there was a special reptile house for all the reptiles, which was a little bit off of the main campus. So if you're thinking about your zoo map, if you want to have your reptile house in a separate section, you can. Just something to think about when you're being your zoo planner. But for now, we're going to learn how to draw him. And he is native to tropical areas of Mexico, Central and South America, and the Caribbean, so places where it's really warm and tropical and humid. So he's going to need some tropical plants, some rocks that would get nice and warm for him to lay on, lounge in the sun, maybe some trees to climb in, some logs that he can lay on and climb around. And of course, he eats leaves. We need plenty of leafy trees and plants around him to eat. Okay, so we're going to start with our iguana. Now with the iguana, you're going to need to erase several lines that we start with. So like I said, I'm using my drawing pen, so I won't be able to erase them. So I'm going to show you how to start the main body and show you where to erase, and then I'm probably going to redraw it so you can see it without the eraser. Okay. Here we go. Iguana. You're going to start with 2 circles that overlap. So you have a circle and then a slightly smaller circle that's going to overlap. Okay, then that is going to become a connected shape. So if you see this shape here, and if any of my 4th grade students or prior 4th grade students have made the stuffed animals with me or out there, you know this is how we did our stuffed animals. We drew our shapes and then we created one line around the whole thing and it became the body. So that's going to become your body. So you can erase these lines right here. Then you're going to add what's going to become, I guess you would call it a nose. I'm not sure. Nose mouth area of an iguana. It comes out like this. And I guess an ear area up here. And again, you're going to want to erase these lines. You're going to want to erase this and this. That looks a little weird right now because I've done all these scratching. So let me just redraw it for you. Okay, you can see where the shape is kind of going. And then we're going to add a tail, and the tail is going to come off of this back area where you're going to erase here too. And it's going to come around and curl in. And then this attaches like that. Now I'm doing practice drawings too, and I'm looking at mine, and mine looks maybe a bit overweight. So maybe when I draw it in my actual zoo, I will not make him have such a large chin area. Okay, so now we're going to add the eye, which is a circle here. And then add the pupil, just like we did with our giraffe. Now this is a happy little iguana, so we're going to give him a little smile. Now we're going to add some circles that you're going to be, or some ovals that you are going to be erasing some of the lines. So I'm going to do a little oval here and a little one back here. And then we're going to add a second one that's sort of coming out behind it for both of them. These are going to become its legs and feet. We sort of need to just get an idea of the angles of them, which is why we create the circles first. Okay, so the top leg is going to go around like that, where I've darkened it. Then come out and give it some toes and back in. So I've really darkened where your line should be. There we go. And then you would erase the other lines. I'm just going to hold this up for a minute or so you can see. So you're going to erase the lines that would be no longer there. The one that's going sort of right over the hand, and the extra lines in the crouched leg. We're going to do the same thing for the back leg. It's going to come around and in, and then the toes, and come back up. Mine looks a little weird because, like I said, I cannot erase that pen, but you can see where his little feet should come out in front of his body and by his tail. I realize my tail is a little thick too. So maybe my iguana just needs to go on a quarantine diet because he's had a little too many leafy plants and tropical flowers. So like I said, in his environment, he likes to lay on rocks and logs and trees. So we're going to create a little log for him, or a little tree stump that he's sitting on. So we're just going to create some circles right underneath of his chin. You can see that's the log. And if we just add some circles right into that top circle, that makes it look like a log. Now, generally, the iguanas, when I was doing some research, are brown and green. But when we're talking about our own zoo that we're making up, we do not need to follow those kind of rules. And same with the giraffe and any other animals we draw. There are no rules. You are not getting graded for this. This is supposed to be fun and creative. So if you want to add some polka dots, and when you are starting to color later, you can make your iguana whatever color you want to. I would probably like to add some dots on him. Maybe give him some dots on this crazy chubby tail that he has. But there's our iguana. Oh, sorry, I'm not very good at this. There we go. So now we have our iguana. So if you're just joining us, we have created an iguana and a giraffe so far. And I believe with Facebook Live, after I stop the live video, it's still available. So if you want to go back and follow along with anything, if you missed it, you can do that. And now our last animal, come back up, is a hippo. And the reason we're doing a hippo is because of Fiona, that I was inspired by their live feed that they're doing this afternoon. And when I worked at the zoo, the hippo house, if anybody remembers that from back in the day, had just closed, and they'd just gotten rid of the hippopotamus that was there. So I never got to go hang out and watch the hippo. But they're fascinating, and they're the third largest land mammal. So we learned about that the giraffe is the tallest, and the hippopotamus is the third largest land animal. And they are also from Africa. So they used to be, if you go to the zoo, when you go into Africa, along that boardwalk, when you first walk in, to the right is where the hippo used to be. And they're semi-aquatic, meaning they are land animals, but they love to be in the water. And that's mainly to keep themselves cool because they are in Africa where it's very hot. So their environment is rivers and lakes and swamps. They like to stay cool in the water, and they really need mud. They like to cool off in the mud. So when you're creating your environment later for your hippo, you need to make sure it has a water feature or sort of like a swampy kind of area where they can roll around in the mud and stay cool. And they also eat plants. A lot of plant eaters today. So you need to make sure you provide grasses and plants for them to eat in their environment. Okay, so we're going to start with our hippo. So you're going to start with the hippo with an oval. Okay. And then you're going to add a rainbow to the top of that. My students know I talk in rainbows and smileys and C's and backward C's all the time. So that's why I'm calling them rainbows. And then we're going to add eyes, 2 circles, and 2 ears. We're going to add the pupils the same way we've done with the other animals. And then we have to add 2 nostrils, which are as well. And then a big mouth and 2 teeth. Starting to look cute. And then we're going to create the body, and the body is also an oval, and you can make your body as big or as small as you want. It's going to come off the side of the mouth and go around like that. Then we need to add his feet. And a little tail. And then you have your hippo. I actually want to add some inside the ears. And some little toes. All right, so here is our hippo. Looking cute and chubby, not at all ferocious as they can be. They are one of the more dangerous animals in the wild, but also in the zoo. The hippo and the elephant are 2 of the most dangerous animals. And so being an elephant keeper or a hippo keeper is a dangerous job. Okay, so now we have our 3 animals for today. And like I was saying, these were just practice. And you can practice these over and over again until you get it right. You can add changes to it. You can make it your own, whatever you want to do. And then when you're ready, you're going to add them to your zoo. So we're going to get your zoo set up so you're ready to go when it's time. So you're going to need a new, fresh piece of paper, whatever size you have. This happens to be regular construction paper size. If you have a big piece of paper, great. Poster board, that's awesome. Then you can put everything all on one. If you have this size paper, and when you run out of room throughout the week, you can always put 2 together and tape them on the back. Okay, whatever you'd like to do. Or if you're a tiny drawer, I know a lot of my students like to draw things very tiny, that's fine too. So I think when we first got on, I mentioned to people that you're going to need a cup. So I'll give you like a minute to go find a cup or anything that you can trace that's round, because this is going to be your logo for your zoo. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Go get a cup and we'll wait for everybody to get that. And if you have friends who are trying to get on, see I have 99 plus friend requests. So after we're done, I will accept those and then they can watch the the replay of the live video and then be on with us tomorrow. I was trying to accept friend requests as fast as I could, and then I ran out of time. Okay, so I'm going to keep going, and if you're getting your cup, it won't be hard to catch up. But what you're going to do is you're going to take your cup, you're going to put it approximately in the center of the paper. Does not have to be perfect. I tell my students that all the time. Not looking for perfection. And you're going to, well, I guess I should use my drawing pen. Draw a circle or trace a circle around your cup. And this is where you're going to draw the name and the logo for your zoo. So your zoo can be called, your first name. So I'm just seeing under. So Gabby and Charlie's Rockin' Zoo. It can be your last name. It can be the world's best zoo. It can be Ellicott City Zoo. That's where I am. Or Lisbon Zoo. Or Tall Gen Zoo. So whatever you want it to be, and you're going to draw that name in the center. So I'm going to keep mine very simple, and I'm going to make mine the Giro Zoo. And I'm making my Z turn into a little animal. In all fairness, I did practice this last night, so I'm not just coming up with these ideas on the fly. Make it look like little paw prints inside. And then you can decorate it however you want. Now this is something you can work on and finish after we're done the live stream here, because I just want you to, I'm just going to get you set up to start your Zoom app, and then you can color it. All right, so we're going to create environments, or I guess enclosures, for our animals. In my practice, or my example that I'm going to show you at the end, I have 8 different enclosures on this first piece. But that's why I was saying you can add a second piece of paper, because we're going to have more than 8 animals. And if you're a perfectionist and need a ruler, you can do that, or you can just hand draw it. They don't have to be perfect squares. Just be different sizes. These are going to be for all your different animals. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now I have some enclosures for my animals. Different sizes, because some animals are going to need bigger ones and some are going to need smaller ones. So you can be thinking about that as we are finished up here. Because I'm not going to draw my environments here. I'm going to let you do that on your own as sort of a art class extension, not homework, art class extension. So when we get together tomorrow, you're ready to learn 3 new animals and add those to your paper as well. So I'm just going to show you what I did and sort of explain why I did it. And then you can go ahead and start working on your Zoom app on your own. So here's what I did. I made my logo in the center and added some color. I used colored pencils, and my students know that I always say draw with pencil, outline with Sharpie, erase your pencil lines, and then add color. So that's what I would recommend, but I used all colored pencil for this one. I used pencil first, and then I went with colored pencil, but I did outline my animal in black colored pencil, so it would stand out from the environment. Okay, so I don't know if this is backwards or not on yours. So I made my logo in the middle, and then I have my hippo down here. And of course, when you go to a zoo, it has labeled what the animal is. And if you want to get really into it, you could put some facts about your animal next to it if you want to on the sign. I also just wrote hippo because didn't know how to spell hippopotamus when I was doing this at the time. And my students also know that I never grade on spelling because I am the world's worst speller. So I just wrote hippo. And then I have my giraffe here and my iguana up here. And just like we talked about, the iguana needs something to sit on. He needs lots of leafy plants and flowers and very tropical environment. The giraffe needs more space. So maybe one of your bigger enclosures is where your giraffe would be. And if you remember, I also said they like to be in herds. So maybe you would add a second giraffe here. I should have done this. This poor little giraffe is all by himself, so sad. But he has leaves to eat and some flowers and some space to run around. And of course, the hippo, he's in his swamp here, hanging out, having fun with some grass to eat around him and some shade, and of course, some mud in his swampy area. Okay, so this is what I want you to work on for some part of your creative time today while you're at home learning. And then tomorrow when we come back on, I'll come back on at 10 o'clock again and talk about 3 more animals. And we'll draw those and talk about their environments. And then you can add them to your zoo paper as well. If you have any questions, I think you can comment on here, or you can comment on my original post, or you can message me. Otherwise, I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye.